So you got knocked down. Now it's time to rise stronger than ever. This is Forged by Fire, the Intentional Man podcast for husbands, fathers, and leaders who refuse to stay broken. We rebuild with purpose, we live with clarity, and we lead like hell's watching. Let's get to work. You can fix your routine, you can fix your habits. Hell, you can even fix your marriage. But if that voice in your head is still telling you you're not good enough, you're going to sabotage it all. This episode is about the mental game, the beliefs that either chain you to who you were, the man you were before, or it's going to unleash the man that you're becoming. You know, just yesterday, Cresta and we went out to breakfast and we were talking, and she asked me a question that I don't think I've given much thought about until she asked yesterday. And the question was, do I ever worry about losing her, messing it all up? Forget exactly how she phrased it, but something along those lines. And the truth of the matter is I don't. And one of the reasons I don't is because of the man I've become today, the man who I believe I am today, the man who I'm constantly striving to become tomorrow, and everything that's gone on in my life since it all fell apart. And the man I am today doesn't worry about those things. He doesn't get stuck in his own damn story. He doesn't fall into the trap that the old guy used to. And that's because the mentality of how I approach things, how I go about doing things from day to day has changed. And it's changed for the better, clearly, because I'm not worrying about that. You know, most men are trapped by one thing, and it's their own thoughts. It's their own story that they tell themselves in their head. And they just can't get out of their own way. You know, they tell themselves, like, I've always been like this. I'm not the guy who does this or does that. She'll never trust me again. This is just how I am. You know, and when you get trapped in those thoughts, the ones that are whispering doubt, guilt, shame, it's not the truth. And the reality is that's just your programming. It's how you were trained to think, whether subconsciously or consciously. It's how you were trained to think, and it could be a million different reasons. It could be past relationships. It could be how you were raised. There's just a million different ways, a million different reasons why your thinking is like that. And until you change that, you're not going to fix anything. You've got to reprogram your brain. You've got to start thinking differently. You've got to start thinking like a winner. And that is a freeing thing once you get to that point where you're thinking like a winner. You're thinking with confidence, and you know whatever you're going to attack, you're going to succeed in. So if you're not thinking like a winner, your thinking and your programming is off. The problem is you've heard that for so long, you've stopped questioning it. When you get down on yourself, you stop questioning it, and it's become an all too familiar voice. And it doesn't mean it's real. It just means you've come to accept it. You've kind of laid down and allowed that thought pattern to just permeate everything you do, how you attack life, how you attack different situations. You're allowing that to win every single time. You know, I used to think I was broken. I used to think, you know, you can't trust me with things because I'm just going to go and mess it up. And every time I bought into those lies, I showed up like a man that was wanting to fail. It was those thoughts, it was that attitude that really perpetuated the man I was. It formed me into the man I was. I didn't control my thoughts. Uh, I didn't allow anything to come in the way of those. I just laid down to them. And, you know, the reality is the brain will always find ways to confirm what you always think, even if it's destroying you. You know, we call that confirmation bias. And really, it's one of the most powerful things in your life, whether you know it or not. So if you're believing that you're broken, you're going to fail every time. If you believe you're weak, you're going to interpret every challenge as a threat. You know, if you see yourself as the problem, you're going to burn bridges just so no one else gets close to you. Because that is the thought pattern you're in. That is your mentality. And you're just going to give into it every single time. You know, when I think about this, I always think about the song from Linkin Park, and I can't think of the title of it, but it says, I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Is that the mentality you have? Is that the mindset you have when you attack life? Like, it doesn't matter. In the end, it just really doesn't matter. Whatever I do, I'm going to fail. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve that. I don't deserve the promotion at work. I don't deserve my wife, my kids, my house. Are you living in that defeated state? Because if you're living in that defeated state, nothing's ever going to change. You're going to confirm what you already think because that's how you attack problems. That's how you attack life. And if you want to change the outcomes, the only person responsible for that is you. You've got to change your mindset. You've got to change how you attack problems, how you attack life. And if you're thinking, man, I'm really worried that one day I'm just going to blow it with my wife. Well, one day you're going to blow it with your wife because everything that comes in your way, everything that comes to you, you've got that mentality. Is this going to be the thing I mess up? Is this going to be the thing I mess up? And so you start approaching things based out of fear instead of a place of strength. And it's this mental loop that a lot of guys just get themselves into. I'm going to fail. I fail. You just confirm with yourself that the results in your life are the ones that you deserve. And the truth of the matter is that's not the case. You deserve better. You can do better. So stop buying into it. Stop buying into that mentality that this is just the way it is. If this is just the way it is, then curl up, turn off this podcast, go live your life, and good luck. But at the end of the day, we've all got to constantly be improving ourselves, and this is one area that we've got to break that cycle. We've got to break the loop. And are there going to be hard times? Are you going to stumble and fail and get back in that cycle again? Yes, but you've got to break it. You're going to get a quick hit of certainty, if you will, and it's just going to confirm everything. And it feels safer to believe something painful like that, but predictable. But the risk is becoming someone that you don't like. So how about you take a risk and becoming someone new, somebody better? Don't believe that false identity. Don't let that belief, that false identity, become a self-fulfilling prophecy. A quote from Henry Ford says, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. And how true is that? Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. So if you think you can become better, if you think you can change your mentality and start having a winner's mindset, you can. But if you don't think you can, you can't. The choice is really up to you. You've got to take responsibility. You've got to own it. That's why we talk about fixing yourself, fixing your shit first before we go and start fixing everything else. You've got to believe that you can. You've believed that you can make the difference. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And I know a lot of times we don't want to hear that nobody else is going to do it for us or nobody else is going to be there. But at the end of the day, when all is said and done, you're the one who has to look in the mirror and be okay with that man. So are you okay looking in the mirror, having that self-doubt, that self-pity, and just being okay with it? I know I'm not. And I know most men I look up to, not most, I know all men I look up to aren't okay with that. I learned this a few years ago, and, I know the saying's been around a while, and I don't remember exactly how it goes, but, you are who you surround yourself with. And, we're always taught that don't hang out with this crowd, don't hang out with that crowd, because that's who you're going to become. But take a look at the people you surround yourself with. Are they dragging you down or are they building you up? Because whether you'd like to admit it or not, they are having an impact on how you view yourself, how you view the world, how you view reality. They're having that impact. And the question is, are you going to give yourself permission to seek new friends, seek different friends? If you approach something in life and know you're going to be able to succeed, more times than not, you succeed. And if you approach something that you've already given up on, that you've decided you can't succeed, what's the likelihood you're going to? Right? The question is, what are you going to give your mind permission to believe today? Are you going to allow that you can believe you can improve your marriage? You can improve your relationships with your kids. You can improve at work. Or are you going to say no? Things just are the way they are. My wife's this way, my kids are this way, my boss is this way. There's nothing I can do. I'm just gonna live the defeatist attitude. And you reap what you sow. Start sowing things that are a little better. My turning point, it didn't come in the gym. It wasn't therapy. It really was that moment that I stopped agreeing with all the lies. And I decided that I wasn't going to be that man anymore. And I'm going to start thinking a different way. I caught myself thinking, I'm just not good at showing emotion. And I paused because that wasn't the truth. That was a cage I lived in for years. So I had to stop. I had to rewrite it. I had to start learning to express my emotions through strength. And that shift, it was tiny words, but really had a massive impact on my life. Because when you change the belief, the actions follow. Your identity really drives your behavior. And the man you become starts with the story you believe. You're not stuck because of your situation. You're not stuck because of your story. Change that, and you change everything. Most guys want a checklist, give me 5 steps, the 3 keys, the morning routine. But if we could do that, nobody would need anybody else. We could just throw out a couple checklists and everybody would be great. But none of that works when your identity is screaming, I'm not enough. I could give you all the checklists in the world. I could give you 100 points on things you want to do. I could give you the best morning routine. But if your mentality is, well, it doesn't really matter because I'm going to fail, all that stuff is worthless. You've got to do more than just act different. You've got to think different. You've got to approach things differently. Because really, everything that's led you to where you are now, maybe you're miserable, maybe you're uncomfortable, maybe you're not liking things right now. You've gotten that way because of the way you're thinking. So your thinking has got to change. Your approach has got to change. And it's time to start disagreeing with the old you. You've got to do more than act different. You've got to think different. If you believe you're broken, you're going to act broken. If you believe you're unforgivable, you'll sabotage intimacy. If you believe you're weak, you're never going to show up strong. It's time to stop agreeing with the old you. Burn the script, write a new one. Like the man you're becoming. Speak like the man you're becoming. Act like the man you're becoming. And eventually, you're going to become him. But you've got to start taking those steps today. Don't wait for something to change. Don't wait for everything just to align right, because it's never going to. Until you start taking action, everything's going to stay the same. This one hit different. You know what to do. Subscribe, leave a review, share it with a brother. Join the community at forgedbyfirepodcast.com. We're rewriting identities there every day, one rep at a time. And next time, we're going to go deeper into legacy, how your daily decisions echo through generations. Let's keep forging. Thanks for listening to the Forged by Fire, the Intentional Man podcast. Your comeback story starts here. Don't forget to subscribe, share this with a man who needs it. And if you're ready to take the next step, join the free community. You'll find the link at forgedbyfirepodcast.com. Real conversations, real men, no more pretending. Let's rise.